keep that reputation intact, don't they?
Well, yes, they do, but we're starting to already see some tensions between the military and the opposition. I mean, they used force against protesters last Friday using similar tactics that the Mubarak regime used, whether it's tear gas and so on. So, I mean, sooner or later, there's going to be more clashes between the military and the opposition. That's inevitable. Again, the people who are in charge are not known to be democracy activists. These are not people who love freedom. For 30 years or longer, they supported a very authoritarian regime. So I think we have to keep that in mind. And the military controls a large sector of the Egyptian economy. It has a whole range of privileges, and it has a status quo that it wants to protect. It doesn't want to see the whole system overturned. Everyone has their interests in the end.
Hossam al-Hamalawi in Cairo, if I could turn back to you on this. One of the perceived strengths of this democracy movement before it toppled Mubarak from power was the fact that it was very broad-based and it wasn't unified around a single leader or a single figure, if you will. In the post-Mubarak era, could this now be seen perhaps as a weakness and at a time when leadership is needed now more than ever?
Well, it has its own pros and cons. On the one hand, spontaneity is always something needed. It unleashes the creativity of the people, and you always hit the regime from where it never expects to be hit. But at the same time, as you proceed and you go along, a leadership must evolve. Maybe thank God that we didn't have leadership for the uprising, because the overwhelming majority of the current political parties and groups had already failed us before the uprising, and they were playing Mubarak's game. They knew the red ceiling. So I think it was a positive thing that we didn't have leadership for this uprising. But if you want to talk about a leadership that can negotiate, or a leadership that can provide a vision for the people, I don't think we should be really in a hurry. Everything evolves. The police disappeared from our streets. The popular committees evolved in order to compensate for this power vacuum. When the services collapsed in one area, the people stepped in with their own initiatives. So the leadership that we are aspiring now for is a leadership that, as our colleague Shadi here was saying, does actually look with concern and skepticism to Mubarak's generals who are running the show now, because these generals are the ones who provided the backbone for this dictatorship over the past 30 years. And it's the military junta which receives $1.3 billion from the US every year, so we can expect closer relationship between the two. So the leadership that we have must be a leadership from below. I'm not really obsessed with the names that the media keeps on circulating, like al-Baradei and others, because I believe that we're 82 million Egyptians or more, and you can find actually alternative leaderships if you push for these struggles from below.
And what do you make of the pace of reform, as we were talking about earlier? You think it's too much too quickly, or do we need to take our time here?
For me, it's not really a question of timing. It can take as long as it wants or as short as it should be, but it's who's in charge while this process is happening. When you get the military generals running this process and administrating it, then you have to be very skeptical and vigilant, because the military, at the end of the day, can engineer a civilian government. I mean, I do believe that they don't want to stay in power forever, and that they would prefer handing over the political power to a civilian government. But do we want to end up with a system like Turkey, where you have a civilian government, for example, but the military institution is so powerful that it's very difficult to cross the line with? It's about who's running the show. And as long as Mubarak's generals are over there and they are the ones administering this transformation, then I would be very skeptical. And for me, it's not really about, like, is it going to take 1 week or 6 months? It's about who's administering it.
Shadi Hamid, if I could turn back to you on this. Whatever government emerges out of this transitionary period, do you feel it's one that the Egyptian military, as powerful as it is in the country and as powerful as it has been for so long now, has to be one that they will ultimately be happy with?
Well, I don't think it's so much an issue of what they're happy with. I mean, there will be elections, and the cabinet should be formed according to the results of those elections. We're assuming that the military is not going to intervene in the electoral process and try to rig the ballot. So it's really up to the Egyptian people who they want to vote for. Now, if the results aren't to the military's liking, but let's keep in mind that everyone who's participating now has the military's approval. So the one big fear would be the Muslim Brotherhood, but the military has already shown that it's okay with the Brotherhood playing a larger role in politics. There has been a dialogue between the two sides. So I don't really see an emerging party or group that would really threaten the military or get them nervous in that respect.
Well, you mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood there. They're a very well organized group, and they've done well in